All right, we're live.
Welcome to We Gotta Believe, presented by Barstool Sports, presented by Coors Light, the beer that is made to chill. Another episode of We Gotta Believe, the first episode of We Gotta Believe, the newest product in the Barstool Sports podcast library, the official podcast of the New York Knicks. This is a New York Knicks podcast now, boys. Fuck the Suns up, guns out. We're a Knicks podcast now.
How about Knicks out, Dicks out?
Knicks out, Dicks out. There we go. I had the Knicks on the small TV and the Mets on the big TV. That's the last time that's happening for a little while here because they won by like 20 in a huge game against the Bulls, and the Mets made Nick Pivetta look like the best pitcher this side of Garrett Richards last night.
I'm never gonna. I'm down with Knicks out, Dicks out. I love what the team's been doing. I fully understand you, but I can't stop now. I've been Mr. Positivity. I've been going to bat for this team because I'm the only person going to bat for this team because no one else is on the fucking team. I can't stop now. But I'll tell you this much. I don't have much left in the tank. This Mets positivity shit is absolutely exhausting. I don't know how any of the positive people from Mets Twitter, I don't know how they ever did it. I mean, it is like it's a whole job in and of itself to be positive about this goddamn team. But I'm not going to stop now. I'm sticking to my guns because, as I said on the live stream last night, and as I've been saying, being negative about Mets teams in the past is different than being negative about this team because this team actually has talent. And if you think that they're just going to continue to be this bad at the plate, I just don't think you've watched 162 games of baseball before. I mean, this is how baseball goes. Now, will they become the most clutch team in the world and become like the best team with runners in scoring position? Of course not. Also, what creeps into my head is for how long do we say things with DeGrom like, well, this can't just keep happening. Eventually, water will find its level. And like, nope, here we are. You know, all the DeGrom stats about this many starts and he's only 27-20 or whatever the record is. Those stats were appalling. Like 45 starts ago, when it was like he had 50 starts of an ERA of 2 and he's only got 20 wins. And now it's up to like 80. So with the Mets, these things that should eventually kind of even out, sometimes they don't. And I will gladly put my hand up if we are at the All-Star break and they are still this putrid and still scoring, last in the league in runs. I will put my hand up and say, yes, it was the same old Mets. But I am not ready to do it at 19, 20 games in, whatever we're at, not with the level of talent on paper on this team. Because, I guess it all boils down to, like, what do you believe in? Do you really believe in the clutch gene and that there are certain guys who just can't get hits when runners are on base? Or is that more of, like, that's a not a luck thing, but that's just kind of a probability thing. That's just a chance thing. It's like you get a lot of hits when guys are on base. You don't when there's nobody on. Like eventually that kind of flip-flops and you start driving in runs. If all these guys truly are up there shaking in their boots with runners in scoring position and that continues, hey, I will flip right back to the same old me. I'll go right back to being Mr. Negative. But right now, I just can't. I mean, there's just no reason that this will continue forever, right? Other than, if we're talking about black magic, are we talking about the black cloud hanging over the Mets? But, like, I just got to think that eventually McNeil hits and eventually, I don't know about Conforto. He may never hit again. Some of these guys are just, Lindor is a little bit concerning because, if you look at his average and some of his numbers, they've been trending down for a while now. But if you look at like his power numbers, those have gone in the right direction. So it kind of depends on which stats you want to cherry pick. But anyway, I'm babbling here just to say that lineup is too good on paper. And we've seen enough of them hit well that I would imagine it's got to click. My main concern is that the offense is going to start to click when the pitching is going to come back down to earth. And then that's a whole other bag of worms where it's like can of worms where we're going to be playing whack-a-mole all season. And that's how you end up being like last year where, they had an OPS of like 1,000 as a team, but, didn't make the playoffs or something like that. But I just can't. It's the first time in my life I've ever been on the other side of it where I see, the doom and gloom. And I'm like, it almost gives me perspective on when people used to be like fed up with me being negative. But again, I always think the difference is I was complaining about guys like Kirk Neuenhuis and fucking, John Mayberry Jr. and Eric Campbell, when now we're talking about, guys who Pete Alonso's hit more home runs in the first couple seasons than anybody ever. Lindor is, had the most home runs as a shortstop in the league in the last 5 years. Conforto has put up 25 home runs a year for 4 straight years. Jeff McNeil was a batting champ contender. It's just like these are numbers. Dom Smith did nothing but hit extra base hits for his first season and a half. Some of that has to come back. It has to.
I love how I think Frank the Tank has actually galvanized you to become this positive influence. So that is actually like one of the best things to come from this, because Frank is he's having a time of his life right now.
He's stupid about it. It's like these I get it. I understand. People love it too. There's 2 things going on with Frank. He's seen it all like we have, and some people just get broken and battered, and I know that we are in that camp as well. And also people love the content. I think he leans into the negative routine. But when you're complaining about every single pitch and every single swing and every time something good happens, it's still bad. It's like, if this was a really shitty lineup, I would be all about it. But if you really just believe that that's never going to work, then okay, then there's no point of even arguing. We'll just see who's right in 50 more games. But
for you to be the manager of the New York Mets and to go on the radio pregame yesterday and have the easiest out of all time to just say the hits are going to fall, like it's just a law of averages, eventually we're going to drive runners in, and then to come out and say, I think the guys have anxiety at the plate, the entire lineup, that is fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry. You have to have some sort of sense of like the New York media and the market, because it's not the same old LOL Mets year after year after year. You can't put that out there for people to then latch onto. So then whenever they don't get a hit, now it's the whole team suffers from anxiety. Like that's ridiculous.
Insane. That is, I think the one thing I can get down with is that Rojas is not good and not the answer and never was. Like we've said it a million times. He was an interim manager who doesn't really deserve that much of a leash here. Doesn't deserve that much slack. If you're not going to be, an X's and O's guys, and now you're showing that you're going to put your foot in your fucking mouth in a major way, saying that, basically just being like, all my guys are nervous up there. Like, no, even if that's true, by the way, you don't fucking say that.
Right.
I just, Clem, where are you, Clem? I mean, what do you think? Sometimes the negative creeps into my mind where I'm like, maybe Dom Smith, maybe the good Dom Smith was the aberration. And maybe, maybe Jeff McNeil, some of these guys weren't ever supposed to be, the greatest thing. Mm-hmm. They just kind of ended up playing well and being a nice surprise. And maybe that's all they were, a surprise for a season or two. But I don't know. I mean, I still believe in Francisco Lindor. I still believe in, there's like 5 or 6 guys on the team that are and have shown that they're good. I don't know. I still think it's more of a team-wide slump and a team that's got some expectations and some pressure that I think over 162 will find some level.
So I always like to think of myself as a pretty rational fan, right? And you guys would say I'm optimistic, but I think I kind of see both sides. This is the problem. I am losing my fucking mind right now. I can't be rational if I am going crazy. And when you lose the same way every single night, whether it's the offense, the bullpen, the starters, if it's the same thing every night, I snap and I start to go crazy. I can live with, this game.
No, but wait. You just named all 3 facets of the game. So it's not that. It's not that we're losing because of our pitching. And it's not that we're losing because of our bullpen anymore. Even look at Trevor May. Trevor May's been fucking lights out. Miguel Castro has stepped up to the plate or to the rubber, I guess, in a major way. Edwin Diaz is back to being, blaster jacks. And even Familia, when he's in like the 6th inning role, like the bullpen's been good. The starting pitching's been exceptional. So we're losing just because of the offense. That's really it. And so if that offense clicks, you know what I mean? It's nobody else but the offense.
Yeah. And I mean, we are the worst offensive team in baseball. So I had Cubs fans. I was talking to some Cubs fans last night, and they were saying, like, you think your offense is bad? Look at ours. I think they got shut out like 3 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
We have the lowest runs per game in all of baseball right now. So we are the worst offense right now.
Yeah, the name of the game is scoring runs. So, you know, I don't want all other stats about with the bats don't matter because it's about putting runs across the plate.
Yeah, and Anthony Rizzo was pitching. Yeah, Luis Guillorme was pitching for us last week. We've already done the position player pitching, so that I don't care about that.
But
it's the same shit every night that drives me crazy because, again, baseball's baseball, and it's going to come and go, but it's when you go insane. And I hate to say it, we're not like job hunters on this podcast, but I've long time been like, if the pitching sucks for long enough, you got to change the pitching coach because that's all he's in charge of. If the hitting sucks, you got to change the hitting coach. It could be just shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic, but at some point, someone has to be held accountable, and you can't hold the guys who are making millions. And you're not going to just bench guys who are fucking your linchpins in the outfield and the infield in the lineup. So at some point, I think you have to do something about Chili, and it sucks for him because last year he wasn't there because this is the same problem that's going on for 2 years. He was gone because of COVID, but at some point you just have to, and we've seen it, right? You fire the hitting coach, and it could just be pure coincidence that those balls start dropping the day after he leaves or the week after he leaves. But that where it's like it's the first time and it's just a fucking bukkake of fucking runs, and you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, I think guys are like, you're like, holy shit, like a guy lost his job because of us, or you get a little bit lucky, or whatever it is, change of scenery, change of atmosphere. I am all for, unfortunately, firing him, and I have no problem. You want to fire Rojas right now, I'd be like all about it, whatever. But I don't think that's what I all right, how about this? I saw you tweeted it or retweeted it. Who are the bottom 5 teams in baseball right now with runs scored? It's the Padres and the Yankees and like good teams. Now, when you look at them and you see those numbers, are you saying that they are completely fucked? Or are you saying like, yeah, they'll come around. The Padres are going to hit. The Yankees are going to hit. Like, why?
It's different with them because it's feast or famine. Like they had games where they just fucking go off and hit 1 million home runs.
Yeah. That's
look good sometimes. Whereas like ours, DeComo put it out today. The pitchers that have thrown against DeGrom this season have a 4.85 combined ERA. But with the Mets, they have a 1.57 ERA.
Yeah.
We're facing mediocre pitching and not taking advantage at all.
But do you believe that those guys are just bad hitters now? Or do you believe they're in a team-wide slump? Because if you believe they're bad, if you're just going to tell me that Michael Conforto is just not the player he was the last 4 years, and he's just not going to hit 25 home runs this year like he has since 2016 or whatever. And if you tell me that Pete Alonso is just not going to hit, 30 plus, and that Lindor is going to continue to struggle, and that Jeff McNeil is not going to be like a 330 guy anymore, and Don Smith's not going to be a big bopper, and JD Davis is not going to continue to be a DH type of bat who unfortunately has to play the field. And I mean, if you believe all that, then okay, then like I said, we'll just wait and see who's right. But the difference is this is a lineup that has performed. And I'm not saying, they have 10 years of stats to back it up. There is a chance that all of those good seasons may have been flukes. I just don't think that's the reasonable approach. I think the more reasonable idea would be that everybody seems to be slumping, and I reiterated this 1,000 times, offense is down for like everybody. Maybe they over unjuiced the balls, whatever it is. That seems to be the more reasonable answer to me. We are talking about the New York Mets, where in our history, we are always unreasonable. So, maybe I'm going to look back and be like, I can't believe that I ever drank the Kool-Aid for even one season after 35 years of knowing what this team does. But I just think there's too much talent. And I'm not saying that they're like, the 98 Yankees. I'm not saying they're like murderers row here, but I just think there is enough talent on that team to say this is more of a slump issue than they're not good.
Yeah, no, to be very clear, I think we are not going to be bottom. We won't even be the bottom third of the league by the end of the season in runs. I honestly don't believe that. I do think, some stuff will have to change, or you just kind of just like you said, wait for those slumps to turn into hot streaks and whatever. I did see this here. Dom Zuccarello. Chili Davis approach doesn't gel with Sandy Alderson's philosophy to hitting. He's gone by the end of the year. Sure. That's probably the case. But,
Sandy, that's not, fine. Sure. Like, get rid of him. But that's not going to make or break, No,
not at all. But I'm not concerned. It's just like when the hitting does come, I'm then going to hope the pitching is anywhere near it is. Luckily, if anything, if Carrasco and or Syndergaard come back,
should get better.
Yeah, exactly. Should get better or at least stay relatively the same, which, if Stroman dips a little or Peterson, struggles. But at some point, like Jacob deGrom, 0.51 ERA, 2-2. Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
2 earned runs. Two earned runs on the season. He's 2-2.
I almost need he wouldn't do it, but it's like if I read like last night, Jacob deGrom basically just ripped everyone's asshole. I would be 100% fine.
What if maybe that's what needs to happen? We always praise Jake for being quiet, and I still think that's I don't want him like throwing anybody under the bus, but maybe that's what the locker room needs. Maybe like I do sometimes think like who's the leader? Like. I think Pete Alonso is sometimes that guy more media facing. I'm the leader.
Yeah.
And I talk to the media and I do the right things. But in the clubhouse, I don't know. Lindor is the new guy. The rest of these dudes are all pretty young. Like Jacob deGrom should be that team's leader, but he's a quiet guy and he goes about his business guy. I mean, maybe he needs to be the dude who's like, get your fucking shit together, man. Because I don't think there'd be a guy in that locker room who would have a problem with him doing that. I think everyone knows he has every right to, and everybody says the right things. They're all, they're always kind of like, we need to be better for Jake. There's no excuses, all that shit. But maybe he needs to speak up. Maybe ripping somebody's asshole. I mean, could you imagine? I would love to hear that speech. He's got so much fucking ammo. I would love him to stand up there with a sheet of his stats and be like, let me tell you fucking guys here. Cause he could go for an hour right now if he wanted to. But
I thought you were going to say, I literally want to see him rip someone's asshole. Like the 25th man, we can't have like a starter getting his asshole ripped out because that's anal fissures times 1,000. But listen, a guy that is Simple Man is his song. That's a guy that will fucking have a meltdown and lash people out, but it will be like the one where it's like your ears are ringing afterwards. And it's like, all right, it's like, that's when your dad sat you down for the first time. You're like, and that's the last time that happened.
Right.
It's
dad voice. We used to call it dad voice, where like my dad would really let it rip and be like, okay, now we know we're in trouble. And maybe nobody's held anybody accountable enough that, you need to hear some Jacob deGrom dad voice for a change. But I mean, to me, it's like,
we also said in the winter too, we said like, it did feel like the Mets, like we were doing our shopping list and we all said like, it would be nice if they could get that Keith Hernandez guy, that leader.
Yeah.
And, like, it was like him and Carter were the two guys that came in the 80s, and Lindor is one side of it, but I don't think they have the other side of it. Right. And that might be the one thing they're missing. I don't know if they could shop for it at the deadline. I don't even know enough about baseball right now to know who that guy definitely is that is available, but it does feel like, when we were facing the Phillies, you knew the Chase Utleys were going to be those guys.
Who it is? You know who the guy is, and it's a guy I always fucking wanted, and it's a guy I feel like the Mets have had like 5 chances to get over the years, and he's still out there doing it. It's Nelson fucking Cruz. I've always wanted him, and that's a guy who just hits. He always hits. He always mashed, and he could have been that guy over these years to just change that vibe and change that culture and be like, well, I'm going to fucking mash. How about you guys join me? You need a guy like that. And everybody else is a nice player, but they're not a fucking, they're not an asshole. They're not a like Nails type of player. I think this team is rather soft. Even like, you look at Lindor, it's like his whole thing is smiles and like being smooth. And this, Jeff McNeil's fucking nickname is this goddamn squirrel. It's not the most, Pete as the polar bear would be our scary mashing type of guy, but everyone's pretty soft-spoken. And when you're soft-spoken and struggling, you just come across as lifeless and you come across as a big fat pussy team. I'd
actually be down. Like, so we're talking about Rojas. I mean, that's the other thing is the manager should be that guy hypothetically as well. If they do move on from Rojas, who again, I'll give him a little bit more leash if he changes names to Alu Rojas. If not, then like look at the Red Sox, right? The Red Sox sucked last year. They get Alex Cora back, and then they're just good again. They're just good like that. So whatever kind of cheating bullshit Alex Cora is doing for the Red Sox, I want his brother, his boy, Carlos Beltran back here and pulling all the stops out.
What if? Let's do a Marvel what if episode. You know, we all said Beltran wasn't the guy, but you know, let's get him in here and get some buzzers going and get some scandals going. I was arguing with some guy on Twitter today in early morning, woke up and just chose violence. I'm arguing at like 7 a.m. And, you know, the when you go person by person, you know, he was like, Nimmo is not the answer. I'm like, no, nobody ever said that. Nimmo is just going to be an on-base guy. If you were relying on Nimmo to be a big bat this year, you can't even, you don't even have the right to be surprised now, because that means you were relying on a guy who was never really going to be the answer. You look at like JD Davis is hitting. So, you know, he's a nightmare in the field, but he's got an OPS like 1,200. He's not the problem. And then if you want to go person by person with the rest of those guys, who do you think is just going to be bad this year?
I don't think anybody. I honestly,
exactly.
I think it's fine.
Exactly. So then it's just a prolonged slump to start the season that is truly putrid. No denying that. And yet and still, they're 500. If you give me a baseball team and tell me that when they're playing their absolute worst, at least offensively, they're going to be a 500 team, well, you know, that means when they're going to click, they're going to be in above 500. I mean, that's a good team then.
We're only half a game out of first place
right now. That's what I'm saying. Like, and that's more a product of the shitty division, but whatever. That's your fucking division. That's the reality of the situation. And if we've been granted and gifted a cushion to be only a half a game out of first place when we are like the laughing stock of baseball, again, unless you truly believe this is not a slump and that this is just a bad team, then otherwise, if you believe they're going to come out of it, I think you'll be okay. Now, if the pitching totally implodes, and that's the storyline, I think, in my mind. That would be the same old Mets. Not that they're just never going to hit. It's that when they do hit, their pitching will be bad. Because that's always kind of been their way in a more, you know, when we needed starting pitching, we went and got Glavine or Santana, and then we never had a closer. And when we went and we got the K-Rods and the Billy Wagners, we never had the starters. And when we had offense, we didn't have pitching. When we had pitching, we didn't have offense. I mean, seriously, that's been the way since 2006. It was either we had the bomb squad lineup with Glavine, Maine, and Pray for Rain, or we had the quote unquote five aces when we had no offense. You know, it's always been whack-a-mole. So that would be the same old Mets to me. I don't think that I think last year was a weird year. So yes, they didn't hit with runners in scoring position basically all season, but that all season was fucking 54 games or 60 games or whatever. So again, that was like not a full sample either. So I think the narrative, if you want to hate on the Mets, like, you're just doing it wrong. The negative Mets fans are doing it wrong right now. You want to tell me that they're never going to be able to put it all together? Fine. You're going to tell me they're going to score 3.00 runs a game for 162? I just don't think you know the lineup, or you haven't watched baseball, you know, for a full season.
And so what you need to do, and I'm going to this is going to be the perfect segue for the ad that we're going to add post. You just got to simulate. At this point, we just need a month. You just simulate and get to the end of May. And I'm telling you, it'll be fine. It's going to find its level. It's just going to be like I don't know if there's one more night of this kind of offense, 7 nights, but it's going to be a little while and everything will be all right. And I think the pitching, luckily, if the pitching does regress, we then will get the reinforcements between Carrasco and Thor, which again, Thor, not Loki. Positive vibes. We're saying it's going to be Thor. Everything's going to be fine. It's just getting through that month of time. And like, once the draft's over, we can't even have the mock drafts to like distract us. So it's going to be like, we need this shit to end sooner rather than later. But I honestly do think it's going to be okay. I do. And the DeGrom stuff is preposterous now. What is it? It's the most all-time strikeouts to start a season with 50. And then
he tied the record last night for most strikeouts through his first 6 starts with Nolan Ryan, 59 strikeouts through your first 6 starts. So he's basically out there averaging 10 a fucking start. I think he's just going to keep going. through your first 7 starts, through your first 8 starts. I'm so greedy with him. When he gets outs that are not strikeouts, I'm mad. I'm like, oh, what the fuck was that ground out? Come on, man. Like last night was by all measures of Jake DeGrom, last night was like a bad start. You know?
Yeah.
He was struggling when he couldn't put away Pivetta, like 10, 11 pitch at bat. And I was like, what is this, Jake? And he finishes with, 6 innings, 2 runs, fucking 9 strikeout. There's nothing left to say about Jake. And I feel bad because like that's the definition of taking him for granted. Every week we should come on here and wax poetic and mention the numbers and talk about how great he is, because otherwise it does become like, yeah, that's just Jake doing Jake things. But he deserves every ounce of praise and then some every fucking week. So that is my solemn promise to you that's the one thing we will never stop doing here. He'll get every bit of credit he fucking deserves, because even the people who are giving him credit still aren't giving enough.
Like we said last night, we've become comfortably numb to like it was 1-0 with Jake, still shutting, 1 run. That's all he allowed, and we just like accept it. We're like, well, this is just another this is how it is, and it's such bullshit that we can't even get to enjoy maybe the greatest pitcher we'll ever see because this is all going on. So yeah, we have to be like. Because he still goes out. He adds another 2 miles per hour to his fastball every single. He'll be throwing 110 in like 3 seasons, and it's just going to be the way it is.
I liked what Kyle said when Kyle said his Hall of Fame induction is a championship for us, because DeGrom, like I watch DeGrom like a lot of people watch the NBA these days, where you're just watching stars. You just want to see, it's like, who are you a fan of? People are like, I'm a fan of Steph Curry, James Harden, and Dame Lillard. You just want to watch these guys go off. I just want to watch Jake. And if the Mets are going to be bad all year, but Jacob DeGrom goes out and wins like a Cy Young MVP, fine, whatever. I just want to witness that greatness, and that the rest of these bums, even like the way he legged out that ball the other day on that double play ball, like he's just trying harder. He's more athletic. He's more talented and just better. And if the guys played even half as good or hard or whatever as he is right now, they'd be
honestly, like, that was the saddest thing to see, that you have this guy who's out there pitching a gem, who's wasting his energy, by the way.
Yeah.
Sprinting down to first base in a game where, like, he just wants to win that bad that he's like, if I get on base, maybe they can drive me in. Are they going to? No. Nope. Then you have these other guys whose like job it is to get on base, roll over, and then they just jog down the line. And it's like, you have this guy who's literally at the top peak of his game, who's busting his balls down the line, risking getting tired, getting injured, all this shit that they don't even pay him for. It's just like, it's got to be so demoralizing for him to then turn around and then watch the next guy get out. And he's like, what the fuck?
Why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
Right.
And he's not only is he great, he's fucking awesome. When he says, I want to take their souls. And that's everything we should love about a player. He's great. He tries his ass off, and he wants to extinguish the opposition. He wants to Thanos their asses from existence. That's everything we love about a guy. And to it's almost poetic Mets that they still cannot hit for him. Now, the thing is, they're not hitting for anybody, so I feel that sick and twisted. Yeah. That makes me feel a little better. But I don't know about you guys, and I truly do not want it to happen. Like, not even 1%, 0.001. But if Jake does opt out after 2022, which is such an I'm done praising Brody for that contract, which was great, but that 2022 is going to hang over our heads. If he leaves, I honestly couldn't even blame him at this point.
No,
it's not.
I want if it was still the Wilpons, I would legitimately want him to. I remember when David Wright was up, I was like, go somewhere else, dude. You fucking deserve it. And then he signed that, career-ending type of contract, and it was like, I've heard Jake talk about, I like the idea of being on one team my whole career. Like, fucking why, man? Why? Think about it. It's like, for guys like Jeter, that's awesome. For guys like Todd Helton, do people care that he's a lifelong Rocky? Who fucking cares? Wouldn't you have rather been Todd Helton and go jump on, the Astros and win a chip? Like, I hope he puts stock in that, but I would rather be like, I'm grossly underpaid and I can go, join up with the fucking Dodgers or something and go get a ring. Like, But the only hope I have is that Steve Cohen sits him down. Isn't it funny, by the way? Like how little have we talked about Steve Cohen in you know? It's like your owner can only do so much, and it inspires all this type of off-season confidence. And in the long run, I think the reason why I'm so calm right now is because I really, again, I'm the most reasonable Mets fan in the fucking world. I don't want to hear from you guys. I told myself like 5 years, you know, and if this first season is, you know, not great, I'm okay with it. So I'm hoping that Steve Cohen can sit him down and be like, I'm not gonna waste the rest of your time here. Like, we will go get who you need and who you want. And if it does, you know, if they just don't perform, fine. But yeah, that opt out is like,
do you know?
I think he's gonna. You know, I legitimately think he's going to.
You know, opt out and leave, or just opt out?
I think.
He has to opt out. I mean, he's getting underpaid.
That's what I mean. Like he's so good. Like, ordinarily, I wouldn't say, what is he, 32? 32. I wouldn't say, you know, I don't think that's the time to opt out. Like, you already got your money. But he's so good and only getting better that I think he could go sign like a 4-year, you know, like $160 million deal from somebody. And I don't know. I mean, it's so staggering that if they don't make the playoffs this year, what's his incentive to stick around? Why would you say?
He's the dog. He's like just a dog. I just want to leave the back of Citi Field open and be like, just get out of here. Scram.
Go on to a better life. But then, you know, I do think of the Cohen effect, where it's like, you know, what if next year he opens the wallets? Like, I don't know. It just feels like, you know, the flip side of it, I'm gonna put on my, you know, my positive hat here. It's like, if you told me, you know, where do you want to go? You're a superstar pitcher. It's like, go play in New York with a billionaire owner, and like, he's, you know, hungry to win one. So, you know, like, I don't know. To me, I guess I could see both sides of it, but I would be like, I'm just fed up here, man. You know, like, no offense, but, you know, I've got 27 wins and 89 starts here. Like, I gotta go somewhere else. It scares the fuck out of me, man.
He played at Stetson, and that's where Chipper Jones is from, and they're boys. So the weird thing is, like, Chipper could be the reason that he stays with the Mets. He'd be like, oh, you know, like, I played my whole career with the Braves, like, and they made me into like the guy. You're like, do you want to be at the Mount Rushmore of this, or do you want to be like the Tom Seaver who had?
Who cares about being on the Mount Rushmore of the Mets? You know,
I think he might already be, honestly.
Well, yeah, no, he definitely is. You're right, he definitely is. But like, who? Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like, what will your, you know, years 33 through 40 with the Mets do for you that you haven't already done? You know, unless again, I'll be the positive guy. If he brings a title to the Mets, you know, you are a New York, not a Mets, a New York legend. But, you know, it's just such a hard sport to do that. He's pitching, he is throwing championship baseball, and he's not even close, you know? So what more could he do?
At this rate, he's the second best pitcher in Mets history, right? You'd say
I never got to watch Tom Seaver, obviously. So, like, I just, if he continues at this rate for even a couple more seasons, it feels like he's already the best to me. I mean, I'm sure that's blasphemy to the Seaver fans, but I don't know how else I could, you know, how I could be fair about it. But to me, he's.
It's him or Doc too, right? And I think Doc kind of, you know, Doc had his fall from grace after he was absolutely electric. And Keith the other night said it. He's like, this is better than even Doc on his best night.
Yeah,
that 15 strikeout game or whatever. I had a guy on Twitter chirping at me saying, well, I don't know about that. And I said, hey, man, listen, I'm going to go with Keith Hernandez off of you random Twitter person.
Right. I mean, come on.
Who's in the dugout for Doc and is watching the game live at Citi Field. I'll go with him over you random Twitter. That was just Twitter in a nutshell right there.
It's also just so consistent. Like, somebody brought up the David Cohen had his 19 strikeouts in like 1991. And not that David Cohen was bad by any means or anything like that. He was great. But like, you just know you're getting greatness every night. It's I wish I had a bigger, better vocabulary to continue to wax poetic about him. I just don't even know what's left to say. And it's like the total antithesis of I don't know what else to say about the Mets offense. I have to believe it's a slump, because otherwise it's like how could somebody be this bad this consistently for this long? If it's not a slump, that means I've like lost all understanding of baseball and life in general.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy, man.
This has just been a half hour of us just letting it out. We're just venting.
Yeah, it really is.
We're podcasting through it, as they say. And at some point, I would hope that even if it's before the next start, either the next start of the season, tomorrow against the Phillies, or Jake's next start, someone has to just fucking put their foot down. It sounds like a WFAN caller, right? Someone has to go out there and say it, but someone has to do something, man. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, right? And it's felt like that for years now, since 2018, when Jake sold his soul to the devil, cut his hair. He's the anti-Samson, basically. He got superpowers by cutting his hair, but he also lost any semblance of run support along the way and defense. So I honestly don't know.
I've always thought this. If I was one of these guys, the same way that when things were cooking and all Pete Alonso had to do was say LFGM and the fans went wild for it. If one of those guys, if Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil would be nice because it'd be such a change of character. I would go out there and on my post game, I'd be like, we fucking suck. And the fans would love it. And it would be like this, if you're going to every now and then kind of break the rules and be edgy when things are good, do it when you're bad too. And it just kind of, I think, lets the fans know, and maybe, opens the floodgates a little bit, where if you just went on a tirade bashing yourself and the other play, because it's so bad right now that there's not a person in the locker room who would be like, yo, speak for your fucking self, man. I'm doing my thing. Everybody, and even, JD Davis, the only guy who's hitting, and he sucks in the field, so he wouldn't have shit to say. I think you could go off right now and be like, we are fucking garbage. This is a fucking let it out, because that's the realest shit. That's what people want to hear right now, to be honest. That's if I don't want to hear the anxiety. I don't want to hear the we're just going to try to go out there and have good at bats. Shut the fuck up, man. Come on.
We're hitting the nail on the head, though. It is the clubhouse DNA of there's just a bunch of clubhouse guys. Everyone gets along. Everybody's nice, but you need just that random asshole who's going to check everybody and make sure everyone's staying in line. Where it's as much as I fucking hated Todd Frazier, you could tell in the locker room, he had a grasp on what was going on with the younger guys, or Juan Uribe or Kelly Johnson, or that's the thing. That's the reason you trade for those veterans is they might not give you a lot of production on the field, but they're going to turn around and be like, what the fuck are you doing out there? Yeah. And we have nobody that does that. It's just a bunch of nice guys. You need
it really is, man.
Who plays every day that could do that. It's not Jake.
I need to get a bully, bring him to the locker room, and I need lunches in garbages. That's what I need. And it's anybody's lunch. I don't care if you're an all-star. I don't care if you lead the league in home runs. If you don't hit during Jake's next start, lunch, garbage. That's what we're doing. We need to start some fucking volleyball back in. David, or who was it? Was it Wright and Wagner that did that?
It was Wright and there was, who was it too?
Wagner shit was the Lastings Millage, which I thought was a little overboard.
Yeah, that was Wright and Syndergaard, wasn't it?
Parnell, Bobby Parnell.
It was Parnell. Yes. Parnell. Wasn't there something with Syndergaard too, though? I thought
his lunch out. They threw his lunch out.
Oh, right. Okay.
And he probably to do that in his little Noah voice,
the little mouth, okay. Oh man, I mean, I wish that Noah was had more of a resume to back it up, because maybe he'd be the guy who comes back in and starts spitting some fire, but. Yeah, I mean they're lacking that.
It's not going to be Carlos Carrasco, because I don't think you get the name Cookie if you're a
and it can't be a guy who hasn't been there,
And a starter, I feel is tough once every 5 days. It needs to be a legitimate guy in the lineup that, or at least someone that's like a Todd Frazier.
I feel it could be McCann, but this is his first year being a starter, so it's also weird too.
He's also not playing well. I mean, and you know what? That might also be. This team, a lot of people said to me, why do you think this team's going to be good? What do you think the difference is? And I was banking on a lot of guys taking a step forward. You had a lot of guys coming into their prime or coming out of their first couple rookie seasons where now it's time to like really put it together. And I'm banking on, some of these guys following a natural progression of like a pro athlete's career. But, maybe this isn't that season. Maybe they're going to all be like a season behind, and which is a scary thought to just think like, yeah, this one, they're not going to put it together. But I think that's where maybe I don't think it was Springer. And I think they need a position player who's got the resume, because it's like Pete has that one season, and everybody has that one season or those couple seasons where Conforto hasn't put it together long enough. If you need to go get somebody who's like, I've been here, I've done this, I know how to do it, I'm going to perform, and like follow me, So I don't know who that would be. I don't know if there is anybody on the horizon that can do that. Because even Lindor at his best, I don't know if he's that guy. When you're Mr. Smiles and all that shit, I just don't know if that's your.
I feel like maybe a Donaldson, like third baseman, like maybe not Donaldson himself, but he just off that persona where he's like the hard ass in the room, and he's gonna turn around and he's gonna say, "This fucking sucks, boys. Like, what are we doing out here? We're leaving our pitches out to dry every single night."
Mm-hmm.
While everyone else in the dugout just slapping ass, going, "Oh, like good job, you'll get him next time." And it's like, no,
yeah,
you have to have some type of tough love.
I do feel like just based on the way this team is constructed, which is, obviously flawed without the DH, I feel like it'll end up, if it's anything, it'll be like a third baseman. I think JD has been hitting, and if his defense at least stays where he's not costing the team games, he could ward it off. But I do feel like that might come at like a third base down the road. But it is so early. We'll see what happens once the balls start dropping or whatever. And I blogged it yesterday. If you guys want to remember where we were, before this year, and before we at least had the hope of a guy at the fucking top of the org chart who knew what he was doing, that story about Zach Wheeler, that he wanted to go to New York for the playoffs in 2015. He was told, nope, no can do. And then if he wanted to go to the games, he'd have to buy the tickets himself. Just a fucking joke.
That is right up there. The worst Wilpon story to me was the way they treated Pedro when they like made him pitch when he was injured and all that shit. That's this one with Wheeler. That is the Wilpons in an absolute nutshell. Hey guys, I just want to come back to New York, even though I'm injured, to experience the playoff atmosphere and be there with my team. No. Oh, well, can I at least get some tickets for my family? You got to buy them yourself. Like, what a dickhead organization they were. And at least we can rest assured that that's not happening. And by the way, got to give credit to them. Like I guess there was not enough of, I guess what we learned in this scandalous offseason is that if it's not a GM or a manager, nobody cares, because all those the little scandals with all those other guys in the Athletic, nobody cared. And so I don't know if that's just the way the public is, or if we got to tip our cap to the way the Mets PR handled that. But like, we dodged a third bullet this season as far as off the court, off the field stuff goes. So at least that side of things, man, I just want to go back to the offseason when all we're talking about is like who has the best ownership and infrastructure, because that we can always, spin when the play on the field is this bad. There's no way around it. But we can say this. The guarantee I have right now is that the biggest asshole in the building is not ever going to be on the actual team, as long as these fucking little asshole teenagers are running around in the stands. The rise of the Mets teenage fans is one of the more embarrassing things that's happening. Somehow, some way, our fan base is more embarrassing than the players on the field right now. This kid, Mets News, he's the worst. I'm assuming anybody who's listening to the pod is a big enough fan to know it, but just recap everything for the people, Kyle. I feel like you know it best. I kind of know who these kids are and who they're not, but let's dive into this ridiculous fan battle going on.
So this kid, Jaron, he runs New York Mets News on Instagram. It's the biggest Mets fan page, which he'll tell you it's in like every video he puts out or whatever, and it's also in the bio, like biggest Mets fan page.
Okay, let me just stop you right there though. But it's very clearly not, because the 7 line exists. So if you want to just talk about like an Instagram account and how many followers you have, fine. But the biggest fan presence by miles is Darren and the 7 line. No fucking doubt about it. So your Instagram page where you post like the final score every night and people follow you means nothing. Continue.
So he's the brother of the Mets Maniac kid who went viral for ranting about Terry Collins back in like 14, something like that.
He's KFC's kid. KFC thought it was his kid. I remember he brought it.
Yeah, that kid was kind of funny. It was funny because he was like a 12-year-old kid being like, these motherfucking Mets. Didn't he have like a Southern accent too? Wasn't that weird?
Weird accent.
Yeah.
Well,
So
he's old now, so it's like very cringy.
He's not in the mix though, like, right?
No.
Yeah, so he just like became a normal person and was like, okay, that was funny when I was like 12, but I'm gonna go just be like a regular guy now.
No, he still makes those videos, and it's like he's grown up now. It's like the same type of rant, and it's weird.
Okay, so he sucks too.
He's just catching a ricochet shot. No ill will there. So this kid is going to the games. He's from California. He's been traveling all over this year, all this stuff. So he's been kicked out of Citi Field once before under the Wilpon ownership, and so far he's been kicked out 3 times this year at Citi Field. And he was mixing it up with the 135 Mafia, which is like the new 7 line for like the Gen Z or like generation. And we originally thought that was like his thing, but it wasn't. They just invited him along for like clout so that they could build up their fan base. And after he got kicked out, they were like, this guy fucking sucks. And he kicked out of the 135 Mafia. And then they were going back and forth on their Instagram stories. He's like, don't follow them. They're snakes. Da, 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 da. And then we teased this last week, and word got back to him, and then he was in our DMs being like, I heard you guys were talking shit about me, like I'll gladly come on and tell my side of the story, but if not, just make sure everything you're telling is the truth, because my attorneys will be listening. And I'm like,
that's this kid's move.
Like there's no way you're 17 years old and you're getting like legal advice on anything. Like
him and his dad, their big move is that they tell you they're going to sue you. They said this to Darren in the 7 line. It's like, sue me for what, man? Sue me for saying that you are like a teenage kid who's acting like a punk ass teenage kid every night. Like, okay, like there's just no denying that when you go live on your social media every night and you're like belittling and badgering security guards because you're being an asshole again. I can't even imagine what leg you even think you have to stand on. But it was a very funny moment. Like the 135 Mafia.
I am so old. This is makes me feel so bad.
I like those kids. Those kids seem nice.
They look like the 90s fans Yankees with the backwards hat and like the Goomba chain and the fucking they're doing the wall. I hate everything about this.
Yeah, like the 7 line is I know people feel like the 7 line became so big, it became a business, it became a life for Darren and his family. And so yeah, is it gonna have the same like grassroots feeling of when he was like blacked out holding up a sign saying don't trade Reyes? Like, no, it's never going to be the same way that Barstool is never going to be the same, in the same way that your favorite band is never going to be the same when they blow up. Like, things change, but at the heart of it all, the 7 line and everyone who goes to their shit are like the biggest, most diehard and like reasonable fans. Now along come these kids with this 135 Mafia name, which is so bad. I mean, I like those kids, but that name is just so bad. It's so try hard and so hardo. But they want to make it more of a like, we like badger the players. We're screaming like "fuck you" in the crowd. You're like an intimidating presence. Fine, all well and good. You got to just do it. You can't name yourself that and try to like put that at that. You have to just do that, and it's like giving yourself a nickname. You're calling yourself the Mafia, and you're saying you're the big badass. Like, you just got to do it. But what was funny is I'm hearing about this kid and I'm learning about these guys, and then I saw the picture they put up. And those guys are like legitimately like sophomores in high school, right? And I was like, okay. I mean, I can't be involved in this because I'm an old man and like let the kids have their fun. What the problem I have is when I see this asshole like screaming and yelling at security guards who are just there trying to do their job. Like, now you're just being an asshole to people who are like good guys. Hal L, the security guard who kicks this kid out like every single night. Like, you have a free pass to come, free Barstool to ballpark tickets if you're ever off one night and you want to come to Citi Field anyway. I love Hal L. I feel like I can only think of Superman. I can only think of Kal-El when I hear that. He's Hal-El. I feel like he's our fucking. He is like the opposite of this asshole kid. But anybody who's engaging in this nonsense with like the literal children of Citi Field, I mean, we have to mention it because it's big news in like the Mets social media world. But come on, we're talking about actual kids, guys.
The funny part with the Hal-El too, because I jumped to Superman myself, but that's the name tag of the orderly in Happy Gilmore, where it's like, check out the name tag.
Hal-El, wow.
Well, I was like, you gotta be shitting me.
Yeah, I mean that kid and his eyebrows can kick rocks. Hopefully, people just kind of stop giving him the attention he wants. And go follow We Gotta Believe on Instagram, so we can just not have to hear about the Instagram presence of Mets news anymore.
And I don't know. These mafia kids, they could be nice. Again, when you guys were talking about the mafia list, it was like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I feel when I'm out of the Mets Twitter loop, and I don't go that deep in Mets Twitter, but I could already tell I was out of it, and even more so. I don't know do they do the roll call? Because
that was the big problem. So
I don't like the roll call. That's we don't do the roll call. We are the Mets. We're Mets fans.
They align themselves with Jaron, right? Jaron?
Yeah.
And then, which was a bad move. And then they did a Yankees roll call, which is like, I don't know if maybe they're so young. Like the Yankees roll call is not like what it used to be. You know what I mean? Like
the bleacher creatures, the old stadium. Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, when I think of the roll call, it was when they had like 5 Hall of Famers on the field and like, the same guys for 20 years. And it was kind of this, like, this thing, and it hasn't been that for so long. So maybe they don't realize it, but like, you can't go taking Yankee, traditions and try to make it your own. It's just not a good look. But those kids did put up a post being like, this kid is not what we're about. Like, he doesn't represent us, which is the right move and the only move, really. So like, go ahead, God bless, go do your thing. I would just recommend maybe a different PR approach, but hey, let the kids be the kids, right? We're the old men, so we're just going to be here yelling at the clouds. And for the old heads, we can go watch the what's it called? The 30 for 30 coming out. What are they calling it?
Once Upon a Time in Queens.
Once Upon a Time in Queens. It's a 4-part series, right? 4-part 30 for 30 doc about is it the 86 team? Is that what it is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So all things 86 Mets. Which I feel like, to be honest, I mean, I'll watch it and I hope it's awesome. I hope there's some new shit in it that we haven't heard before. But is there really many stories left to tell that you think you don't know, Clem? Like, I mean, I read the book, The Bad Guys Won. Like it feels like I know all those tales. I hope that somebody comes out with some more details or burns a couple more bridges or something cool. Because like The Last Dance, I think did actually have some new shit that at least I didn't know. I think a lot of basketball fans said they already knew those stories. I didn't. But I feel like as a Mets fan, we're gonna know like most of this shit. No?
Yeah, because the New York media in particular, like they've dug, they've used this the '86 Mets, right, to move papers, to move books, all that kind of stuff many times. And I mean, The Bad Guys Won. For anyone who has never read it, get the fucking audiobook if you don't read. I don't know what else to tell you. It is a must read, listen, whatever the fuck you want to do. Shout out Jeff Perlman. He's from my town, actually. It's the most random thing ever. 2 Mayapack boys covering the Mets here. But the only thing I'll say is the fact that Jimmy Kimmel is like part of this, I feel like he's going to he knows what Met fans want. He knows entertaining. He knows funny. I feel like some of these guys are getting older and probably give a hell of a lot less than even they did back in the 80s, which is saying something. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what the hell Lenny's going to come out with, right? And they probably have to triple source Lenny's. What happened, right? They need to have cursing. It's
got to be real. But even hearing Daryl in that phone hit the other night, which, oh my God, the phone call in the middle of the game was just brutal. But if he's on his, I found God shit, which, good for him on a life level, but on like an entertaining documentary level, I don't know if that's, going to be the best vibe.
He wants steak shoes and cocaine stories. That's what he's getting in for.
But, okay. The only thing I will say is the way that The Last Dance, I think, taught a whole new generation about just how awesome Jordan and the Bulls were. It could be cool to watch baseball fans and Mets fans, like the 135 Mafia kids, are going to find out that the Mets used to tape stakes to the bottom of their shoes and stomp around the private jet. Like, there's going to be some fans who are like, holy shit, these dudes really were like that fucking crazy, which will be fun for, we know the stories, but it'll be fun to be like, yeah, man. Yeah, they were fucking nuts. God, I wish I was born just a little bit earlier to have experienced that, to be like, if you were like a teenage kid, like in your sports fandom prime, and you got to root for the 86 Mets.
Yeah, Frank the Tank. Look what happened to him. He's fucking miserable.
Well, that's why I'm fucking so mad at Frank all the time. You know, Frank revealed so much last night on our live stream, from his cousin adopting Native American kids, all the way down to the fact that he just picks basketball teams to root for. Like, you can't be some like diehard sports fan and just jump around from the Celtics to the Suns to the Nets, all while winning 3 Stanley Cups and a Mets championship and acting like he's lived the most tortured life in the world. Fuck off, Frank. Fuck off.
Maybe there's a chance that like this doc doesn't come out like anytime soon, right? It's still like a few months away or something like that.
It's a summertime one.
Okay, but I mean, if it comes out in the summertime, that's fine. Maybe this will be the thing that like, if these Mets players watch it, like, oh shit, like this is kind of what we need now. We need a little bit of seasoning with our fucking, clubhouse here, instead of, everything being so sterile. And maybe that will cause someone to act like Keith or whatever. Just something, beat the shit out of someone at second base. I don't know. Just do something here.
What I wish, we went through the Wally Backman thing so many times where we know he's not, a viable manager.
Oh,
sometimes I wish that Keith was a little more interested in still being a part of the game and not just being a broadcaster, because that's the type of manager I think I would love. That's what everything we just described earlier about how to like light a fire and manage the clubhouse and all that. It would be like if you had Keith Hernandez in there, but we know that he ain't down with that. He wants to just show up, talk a little shop, and go hang out with Haji. But
everything's going to be okay if David Wright becomes the manager. I'm convinced it's going to happen in the next, I don't even know, 5 years. I don't know.
You think, but even, I don't know. I feel like he's kind of still one of those guys. Like, could you imagine him in his Michael Jackson voice trying to like, galvanize the team?
He did throw a lunch away, Kevin. I'm a big time proponent of the lunch throwaway here. So, he always says, and like he says the right, like he won't say my guys have anxiety here, because that was an absolutely preposterous thing to say. And at some point, there is, I guess, a case to be made. It would be almost with him. They don't want to let him down, like they don't want to let Jake down. But fuck it, give me David Wright as manager. That's going to be like every night the offense doesn't show up, I'm just going to think of David Wright being the manager in the next 5 years against once like the kids have worn away his soul, like our kids have worn away our souls, and you're just like, all right, I think I need to get out a little more and do some more stuff at the office.
Seriously.
Give me David Wright. If it's not going to be Beltran in cheating ways.
give me both of them. Give me like, Beltran can be at this point, Beltran could probably be a player manager. You'd probably bat better than fucking some of the guys we're putting out there.
Beltran at center, I think we just fixed the team.
Yeah. I wish I was joking. I feel like he could go out there and hit 200.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. So,
and I want you guys to admit, when Brandon Nimmo and he had the press conference about the hip and the impingement, you guys were really worried we were about to lose him. And the way you felt about him is not how you felt about him before the season started.
I already apologized. I think I said sorry on Twitter. I made an official apology. But this is what I'll say. He is who I thought he was. Like, I will never concede. The people who are talking about MVP type shit is just crazy. He's a great table setter for a team that just doesn't clear the table. So we need, that's the shame of it all. Is like you're wasting Jacob deGrom starts, and you're wasting Brandon Nimmo being on base every fucking 3 seconds if you can't drive him in. So
the Mets are, Brandon Nimmo's the guy that sets a table, and the Mets are like Peter Venkman in Ghostbusters, where he just rips the fucking tablecloth off and all the shit goes everywhere. That's basically what 2 through 8 in our lineup is any given night.
God, it's gotta turn around. It just has to. And if it doesn't, I will absolutely I will apologize to each and every Mets hater. I feel like I abandoned my post as Mets hater of the year, And if I'm wrong on this one, so fucking be it. But I just think they're too talented to keep it going like this for much longer. I feel like something's gotta give. So
if it doesn't, we're turning this into at least a Knicks segment every fucking, because I can't just keep debating managers and
there'll be nothing left to say. And I mean, I guess tonight, if you're watching this live right now, Jets will be taking Zach Wilson. A little bit more of a mystery for the Giants. I feel like. Any idea, or we'll wrap it up here talking a little football. Do you have any preference, Clem? Or am I wrong? Is it not? I feel like it was a mystery. Is it not anymore? Have they announced, do you know where they're going to go?
Who, the Giants? No, there's so many different ways they can go. Again, we'll be on the NFL draft coverage tonight. We'll be with us, a bunch of guests and whatnot. There's it's almost to the point it's crazy to see as a Giants fan where they can pretty much draft anyone, and I don't think the whole fan base will collectively cry like fucking babies they have way too much lately. I mean, I'm in a war with half our fan base. I'm us and the Mets. We're all in this together as Mets fans. Giants fans are not nearly as much. I mean, it's going to come down to Daniel Jones this year in general, but
Daniel Jones stinks, dude.
I don't think so. I mean, this is the thing. Everyone forgets he was 24-12 his rookie year. He looked good his rookie year. I mean, last year was rough, but I think they're going to be all right. But I'm not even going to get into a fight with Jets fans over Daniel Jones. I got enough Giants fans. But there's between the offensive line, the receivers, Parsons, the linebacker, the DBs. I'd honestly love for them to trade back, so I don't have to hear Gettleman's never trade back, even though this will probably be his last year anyway. I just want to trade back, shut all that noise up, get a couple picks, and if they do take an edge rusher, which they need probably more than anything, they're not reaching for him, which all these mock drafts are just idiocy anyway, right? You take a guy you like, and you fucking go on. So I think no matter what they do, I'll be fine with it. Famous.
I feel like Zach Wilson. I hate to, I go from positive Mets to negative Jets, but I feel like this, in the big picture of things, the storyline for Jets history has to be they had a chance at Trevor Lawrence and missed it. So it's like the juju's just working against Zach Wilson, where he has to be bad just to fulfill that storyline, because that storyline is too much Jets.
For every, you have the Peyton Manning, the can't miss Peyton Manning, then Ryan Leaf went two. Can't miss Andrew Luck, then RG3 went two. So it's can't miss Trevor Lawrence, and then Wilson goes two. And we said this last night on the Section 10 stream, but it does feel like it would be very Jetsy where the Patriots end up taking a quarterback in the same draft, and that in the next 10 years, you're hearing how the Jets could have had this guy, the Patriots got him, and he became, the spearhead to the next dynasty in New England. It does feel, it's a Jetsy thing. It very much is. I hope it's not the case for you guys, even though I had to hear so many of you assholes taunting me about how the Giants gave you Sam Darnold and how we were fucking morons for giving you Sam Darnold. I will say that one was kind of sweet to have to know.
Well, I don't know. I still think if you put Sam Darnold on a better team, we all say, he would.
Oh, I think he'd be fine in Carolina. Yeah, for sure.
No, but I think he would have been fine. I think he would have been a better Giant.
Better Giant, yeah.
So, you the Giants fans can go ahead and laugh at the Jets fans, but I do still feel like, if you had that, well, it all depends on Daniel Jones, because maybe he'll be just as good as Sam Darnold could have been for the Giants, but I don't know, man. It's just. It's all pointless. Life is pointless. It's all stupid. It's just dumb.
In the words of Kyle Shanahan, we may all be dead by Sunday. So you know what? Why get fucking too up and down about the Mets not hitting, Jacob deGrom not getting support?
Yep.
Every day we may be dead.
If you're watching live, it's an off day tonight for the Mets, so you can't lose tonight. So soak that in. You can't, right? It's an off day, right?
Yeah, it's an off day. And we're going to Philly, which I feel like the Citizens Bank back in the day was a nightmare because you'd have all those Ryan Howard mashing bombs. The bullpen would be in tatters. I do feel like we have gone on track a couple of times in the last few years.
Yeah. They've hit well. How about Bryce Harper taking 97 off the face last night? He kind of it didn't hit him square on, but it kind of did, and he just ate that shit. I was like,
the umpire almost died. In the same vein.
Yeah. I mean, that was wild, man. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see who's, You know what the
if
worst part
offense
is?
can't get on track in Philly, we're fucked. Let's just say that. Like,
Yeah. Also, what sucks too though is like in football, it's like go win on Sunday and maybe the following Sunday and like all is well. It's like the Mets, they've got to go on like a month-long streak to like, you know what I mean, to like convince anybody. So it's like one way or another, there's no end in sight because either they continue to suck or they've got to dig a lot out of this hole. So, although I say that, but that's not true. If they have like a good series and they really mash, we'll start to get cocky and delusional again. But in order to really prove it, this has got to be like some prolonged production. So, well, another fucking season here in Mets land. Gotta believe.
Darkness, my friend.
we're back. We're back,
We're back.
baby. For better or worse.
We're back. Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.